mic lock, mic trigger, mic lock, button is on. Double tap.
Okay, so this is, this video is entitled a Q&A with Jim Hubbard's channel. I've tagged Jim Hubbard in, Wheels, No Heels. Now, unfortunately, my channel is not, I'm going to repeat before we start here, is not a disability channel. But I have had a lot of questions asked over a couple of videos that I've kind of missed the boat on a little bit. Now, I've mixed these questions up. They're not all disability ones, but I'm going to answer the disability questions first. So I do apologize if, obviously I've got a disability. I've got two disabilities, dual disabled. Oh dear. Oh my word. He's dual disabled. Oh my gosh, that's alarm bells ringing right there, boys and girls. Well, guess what? If you're a charity like Autism Initiatives, you can't be another disability, and same for the RNIB. Now, I'm not calling out any charities right here, but yeah, anyway, this is a bit, I'm going to steer away from any controversial thoughts I have, any prerogative thoughts I have. I'm going to keep all that, kind of I'm going to keep it nice and friendly as I can anyway. Because obviously I know that Jem's viewers aren't the same as my viewers. Let's put it that. Let's put it that way. But this video is going to go up before the behind the scenes video, so you're more welcome to watch. I do mention Jim Hubbard's channel in my behind the scenes, but that's not got out yet. But when it does, I thought, and I realized I had a behind the scenes. I thought, and then I thought, Q&A, I might as well just do. I was going to answer a couple of questions anyway. Now, so let's get into it. And of course, I didn't know, here's the thing, so I do apologize. I didn't know that Jim Hubbard's channel was subscribed to my channel. So there you go, I didn't know you were subscribed, and then I realized why all your videos came up right on top, and it's because you're subscribed. And I thought, crumbs, I looked at my subscriber and I thought, I wonder who that person is, because I always like to look who my subscribers really are. And yeah, so it's good to know that you are my subscriber. Well, so yeah, and you did ask me on my video where I said about disability people having a stick or whatever. I think that was the thing. And it was about visible and non-visible disabilities. Now, that was a reply to Hannah Witten's video. But I am going to answer the question that Jim Hubbard asked. And it would be, would you feel more comfortable if you were not using a stick? If you were fully sighted, if you were just autistic and not blind, would it offend you having a stick? I don't know, that's a very difficult question, but I do see a lot of people having sticks. Me personally, I think just having a stick, you see, the cane for me, but the stick for me, is more. It's more than a cane. It's like a Marks and Spencer's advert, isn't it? It's more than a cane. It's not just a cane. It's not just. It doesn't just help me, without that cane. And just to shut people up, yeah, I've left the cane at home. But there's been times I've brought it out, and I feel like, I don't know, it's like having the cane for me is like, it's not just like having, it's more than an aid for me. It's a little bit, has been over the few years since I've had, since 2012 or 2011, it would have been, when I started actually traveling alone. That's another story that I want to tell. But I didn't start traveling alone properly till, would it have been September 2010? But that's another story. And as an autistic, that is a whole big thing. And people were saying, oh, it's all right, you can go. And I think since having that confidence, I think my cane has just been a massive comfort blanket for me. Everyone's got their thing, to be honest. But to be totally honest, the cane, it's more than just a symbol. It's more than just a symbol. It's but I think if I didn't have the cane, would it be, to not have your comfort blanket with you is like, it's a bit ummy and airy. Because what if you get left in the lurch? There's always that, I mean, like I say, I don't like leaving the cane at home, but I do to shut people up. Because they say, oh, you don't need that, that's their way. Because I don't know if it offends people taking the cane. So just to shut people up. But there has been times when I've just purposely taken the cane with me anyway. And it does happen. Which, your comfort blanket can help you in your way. I mean, the cane for me, for anyone who's guided me, I know some people don't mind, but I know there's a few people that watch this channel that have guided me, and they know what it's like. Whereas your cane can't say, oh, you're gripping me too hard, or you're pushing me the wrong way. And I do have the push against, I do push against my cane, and I do have a good, I grip it. I do grip the cane in a way you shouldn't. But, and also I've got a bicycle bell fitted on my cane, which is fantastic because that's also become, it's become an extra grip, but that's something else. So, but getting, if I wasn't blind, if I was fully sighted and just autistic, would a stick be a comfort blanket? Would it be? Of course it would. I don't really like lanyards, and a lot of people in our community love them. To me, I think the lanyard spells attention seeker, because, now hear me out when I say this, right? And I've tried the sunflower lanyard on many occasions, but since lockdown, there were so many people with them. It was the get out of jail card for people not wanting to wear a mask. it's now become a get out of jail card for many other stupid things, you know. And it's the people have got the non-visible disability. It's like it's the massive brown turd that people are using, you know, whereas sticks are okay. The lanyard is just too easy to get. You know, a stick is easy to get, but not as it's a bit more harder. You know, but if you've got a stick, you know, people are going, oh, he's not just. It's not like it's a bit kind of, you know, and if you go through the right channels of buying a stick and you're not just taking the piss, you know, then fine. I mean, it's a bit difficult. And Jem in her videos, she said about, you know, the wheelchair situation. You know, she's put about and I get it. You know, a lot of people think, well, you know, people say, well, why need a wheelchair and all the rest of it, but everyone's to their needs. But again, that might be a comfort blanket to somebody who can't walk very far or can't, you know, walk very well, whatever. You know, I know people who've got cerebral palsy, and a wheelchair to them is just an extra lifesaver. So yeah, I think, you know, a stick. But I think if you've got an invisible disability and you need help, then having a stick really says a lot, I think, because it's like if you're in a restaurant and you've got a stick, that says something. You know, oh, that person might need something. It's not just that they can't walk or, you know, they need something. That stick says, when someone sees a stick, okay, right, here's the thing. If you see a lanyard, you think, oh, well, does that person need help? Does that person need, you know, do they need, but if they've got a stick, yeah, I think they might need help. But always ask. Never assume. Always ask. Because that's why people have been rude about it. And that's why there's major press in both the autistic and the blind community of, oh, those people are rude, that, you know, about them wanting help. And yeah, the reason is because you assume that person needs help. And it's, you know, there's that kind of fear that you're ripping independence from them. But it always, you know, it's that thing, isn't it? You know, assuming. But it's one of those things. Also, Philip Gray, who's on my, he's one of the people on my street photography, asks, why are you so interested in, if you're into street photography, why are you so interested in disability toilets? We're going there. I'm so interested in disabled toilets, into how they're set up, not, you know, again, personally, how they're set up for other people. And the one thing that pisses me off is, one, the way people use disabled toilets. For me personally, my problems, see, everyone's problems with disabled toilets are different. But my ones, I have three main ones. The first one is the alarm cord tied up. Now, come on, guys. Seriously, yes, I know it will annoy you if the amount of times I've set an alarm cord off, is because the alarm cord's really long. But seriously, would you rather set an alarm cord off, or would you rather, because, if it's stuck up your jacket, whatever, it happens, would you rather that be the case, or would you rather it just be tied out the way where no one can get to it? It's one of those things. And if it's an emergency and you can't get in there, yeah. Another thing is the colours of the disabled toilet, where everything's the same colour. Now, again, this is my personal preference to a disabled toilet. And the last one, I think I will do, Jim Hubbard's done it on her channel. I think I will talk about disabled toilets because it's a big thing. I might add a story time about toilets, because toilets it's not a luxury. It's an added thing. And if you've got a good toilet there, it's a real bonus. It really is. I'm just going to say, the places where I go, I know the toilets are. In fact, I've added into the behind the scenes a flooded toilet, and I will put in the comments that the toilet was broken, and we sort of knew. So maybe our friend kind of knew. But again, it's all to do with awareness. But the thing is, the toilet itself adds to the whole experience, the whole restaurant experience, the whole pub experience. There's staff. It adds, it's the icing on the cake, really. It's the same thing with, the people in the place, if they can, if they treat you with respect, so to speak. And it's good to know if they have an understanding, and again, that's a whole video for itself. But again, it's not a disability channel, but yeah. But that's why, I went round, I had a whole thing where I was spreading awareness in the old days, and it really annoys me to see an alarm cord tied up. It really does. As a street photographer, I think, toilets are public places. A disabled toilet isn't actually a private toilet. That's what we want to spread awareness. And here's the thing, these auditors that go out and do their thing, right? It's surprising that we haven't had auditors going and doing the whole thing about the disability toilets, because I'm sure that would really upset a lot of people. It would upset a lot of bartenders. You could just imagine it. And I know not a bartender per se, I think it was a bartender. The pub was the Richmond pub. There you go, the Richmond pub. Now, I always try and go the disability toilets on purpose. As a disabled person, but at this point, I disappeared off. And I thought, I'm going to just see if their alarm code's tied up. Anyway, why I'm in there. I went out and I said, I said, oh, your alarm code's tied up. Do you know that your alarm code's, why have you not acknowledged it? And you're also using it as a storeroom. This bar person was getting offended. They didn't tell me to stop talking or anything like that, but it's like, oh yeah, we'll deal with it. I was like, yeah, deal with it now. It was in that voice because I was annoyed. And it was like, why, take the things out there, Luckily, I can get around those things. But, I'm not an auditor, but I think there should be, YouTube auditors out there in the scene that do these sort of things. Because what if, an alarm code tied up it's a big thing. If someone was to have, if someone was to have a seizure in there, that alarm code can be, I don't mean to go on and on about it, but I know Jem, she talks about it on her channel, and she's spreading awareness just as much as I am. And I've not really seen, the toilet seat removed from the toilet again. I've seen a lot of broken toilet seats, and oh boy, I haven't known people to get, use the disabled toilet as a sex dungeon, but I have known people to use it, to get themselves done up for the night before in there and stuff like that. Like I found someone's antiperspirant that they'd left in there. And it's just, but people asking really, we street photographers, because we, yes, I'm into my trucks and my wagons and my vans and buildings, but also spreading awareness. I feel that's my responsibility. That's, I'm not an auditor, but it's my responsibility. We street photographers, we document what's going on in the public. We document, but also if we have our personal interests, fine. That's, it's our personal interest at the end of the day. But it's our responsibility to let others know of some of the things that annoy us. Pavement parking, real bad parking. If you want your vehicle to be damaged, park badly. Yeah, park on the pavement. Go ahead. You want your vehicle to be scratched? I've had one incident in the many, and the guy knew he was in the wrong. I'm not going to mention him, but he knew he was in the wrong, and again, I didn't have my cane with me, so I knew that, yeah, okay, fine, I'm in the wrong. But he was parked right opposite his dad's house. His dad's house has got cameras positioned. Those cameras are positioned. I think when he went back and his dad came out and yelled, and he went back and looked at the CCTV footage, I did not punch his mirror. I caught his mirror with my arm. There's a difference to punching the mirror. Come on. But your wing mirror shouldn't have been, and this is the thing, people, when they park, I do look at people's wing mirrors and think, why have they left their wing mirrors like that? Why don't they put them in? Because it's one thing if you're going to get it damaged, you know, I mean, luckily I would have paid for it, 40 quid for a mirror. Come on, seriously. People do come out and shout, and it's only been that one occasion, luckily. But there might be a time where it doesn't happen, fine. Now, this guy, when I saw him another time, and I did apologise to him, I said, look, I've tried to apologise to you. This guy was pooing his pants. Metaphorical bile was coming out. Because he knew. People know, oh, I'm in the wrong, and he's realised, these people realise, and I think his dad knew and looked at the CCTV footage, but what I think it's like, yeah, these people do poo their pants when they realise and I'm in the wrong, so to speak. But I think he's seen me photograph his vehicles as well. It's like, there's me photographing you. But of course, and there's another thing, right? If you don't want me to photograph your truck or your van or your wagon, just don't put any nice logos on. Don't put any big advertisements on, because we won't be interested in your vehicles. If your vehicle doesn't look interesting, we're not going to take a picture of it. And I have a secret code. I go by people's body language. If you go, go and look at that wagon over there, don't start telling me to stop photographing, because you've already sort of given me the go ahead. Go and have a look at that wagon over there. Don't start, it's not, that's, you've already, as soon as you give that green light, don't assume you have already given that. And that's what the auditors test as well. The auditors and people know, another auditor, I put people at ease with that, because I understand a lot of auditors get argumentative, and they secretly do get aggressive because they want the views on their channel. I'm not about that. I just want my photo, or I just want my information, and that's all I want. And I tell people this, all the time. I understand they get nervous and stuff like that. The only people that I've frightened them a little bit is the paramedics, because the paramedics are stupid. They don't understand what we can film and what we can't film, and so they start acting like douchebags. And when you start acting like douchebags, I'm going to start acting like a douchebag with the camera. So there's two ways you can go with that, and Anyway, I'm going to jump cut, and I'm going to go upstairs, and yeah.
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Button. Mic lock. Mic lock. Finish record. Mic lock. Button is on. Double tap to...
Colin Grimes asks, what's the... Have you had any... Have you had any more amazing outcomes? No, I don't know what that question is. Tim McGree asks, have you had any issues with travelling with your autism? Not my autism. My autism's always been fine. But my visual impairment, I've got quite a few The one funny story that I can tell was I was on the train, and there was a drunk guy on the train. Now, I always have an issue with drunk people on public transport. I don't really like drunk people. I get vulnerable with drunk people. But there was this one incident where there was a drunk guy on the train, and he was engaging in conversation. I thought, oh, shit. And I just thought, talk about the weather, and, he kept on and on and on. Anyway, got off the train, and he tried to assist me. Oh, you want to be on this train? Oh, brilliant. Luckily, the guard managed to handle it. I wouldn't have, I was trying to pull away from him anyway. I wasn't letting him put me on the train, bloody hell. But apparently I've heard quite a few people have been in that situation where people who have been drunk or on drugs try and put them onto public transport, and it's very scary. Now, luckily, there is now a policy where drunk people or people intoxicated are not allowed to be on public transport. But there was a time, I think that, it does happen, people do slip through the net, but there was a time when people were, I believe there has been a friend of mine who, she said that she had someone who was on, I think they were on LSD or something like that, and they were trying to put them on a train that looked like a unicorn. Luckily, again, the guards sorted that out. Or I think it was somebody on the platform that luckily sorted them out. Yeah, you don't want to go on trains that look like unicorns. Yeah. But yeah, I've never had any really, really bad situations that, luckily, I mean, I've had some really bad anxious moments but they've not been to the point where, I mean, I would say really bad situations happen to, I'm going to use the N word, folks, normal folk, people that don't really, they can travel, and I think they don't know, and I think they can learn from the disabled people. Because I've said to people, look, if you ever feel vulnerable, go in the back carriage where the guard is. Now, there might not be a guard there, but if you go in the back carriage, that's where and a lot of people tend to go in the front carriages or whatever, never travel alone, and especially on public transport. And people don't know this. They just sort of, and that's why it freaks people out. And I'm like, well, maybe this person was traveling alone and they shouldn't have traveled alone, and it doesn't matter when it is. It's if it's at night and it's late, you're traveling alone on public transport, you don't know these things, you're going to run into some bad shit. And the worst thing you can possibly do is if you're on a train and you're in a bad situation, the worst thing you can do is get off that train, unless somebody is getting you off the train and they're going to get you out of that situation. But the worst thing you can possibly do is get off that train too soon, unless it's a station where there's a crowded platform. And this is where, crowds are always good. I need to do a little bit of a guide for traveling. I've traveled for a while, And my personal preferences are, not, again, it's but I think these things like, traveling with people, and if you're going to travel at night, make sure, it's going to be like, if you're going to get off somewhere soon, you think, oh crap, look at the route and think, oh, well, there is a crowded station or a main station that's nearby. I'll get off there. You've got to think, you've got to plan these things and know. Don't just get off at a deserted platform where there's going to be nobody, and it's, don't be a jerk. That's my advice to anybody, whether you're disabled or not. I think you've got to know, you've got to understand these things. I sound like I'm talking to teenagers here, but people who don't use public transport a lot, and then they go clubbing or they go to bars and stuff like that. Maybe, and I've said, if you're going to do it again, go and use the back carriage, and that really, they then understand. A lot of people don't like the back carriage because people with prams and buggies and that, it's that's the picture they think, oh, I don't want to be in that carriage. But then again, the one rule that you could break, or I've broken, is yes, it's a bit of a walk, and the assistants don't like, because it's the nearest carriage going back. But if you're vulnerable, if you're feeling vulnerable, the back carriage is where the guard is going to be. He's not going to be there all the time, but it's where it's where the guard is going to be, where he or she is going to be, and you're more likely to feel more safer. And never sit by the driver. Well, I'm not saying never sit by the driver, but the driver isn't really responsible. So just little things, really. And yeah, just kind of know what you're. It's one of those things, isn't it? If you don't feel safe in one carriage, move to another carriage. And all the rest of it. I would say, though, trains are a lot safer than buses because they've got it's not just that they've got a guard on board, but they've got transport police who come on and off at different parts. They've got all kinds of things, and I've never really had a really, really bad situation on a train. Where I've had bad situations on buses, which I can't talk about because, but again, douchebags on buses are, Tim Creek asks, more or less the same question, but have you ever had a very bad shopping experience? Yes, I have. It was in Morrison's, and they had an issue with one of their digits on their card machine. But, of course, because the way, when I used to do, and I still do it to this very day, In fact, I don't need to because it's contactless, which is, I think, is more secure than the old way. But if you are, for some reason, like if you are a certain contactless goes over to a certain limit. But if you do find yourself needing to punch numbers in and all the rest of it, again, it's now I tend to cover the keypad in all manner that I can. But this day, I really felt bad because I felt embarrassed. And I mean embarrassed because it was like, oh dear, these people were making me feel like the shopping experience started bad. I was going on a train trip. And I needed supplies. We'll go that far. I needed supplies. And those were the days when I used to just get supplies for a train journey. It was a long train journey. And I was buying 2 big bags of chocolate buttons. And a bottle of pop. No, one of them was supplies for the train journey and the other wasn't. It was just a drink, but I wanted cash back. And in the old days, I knew how to get cash back without having to use a cash machine. It was a smart way. And I made the mistake of going to Morrison's. Now, I still wouldn't do this very day because when you're in a supermarket, I've learned assisted shoppers in a supermarket, they want a bit more. They want to give you an experience kind of thing, but more or less, it's not an experience per se. They want you to buy actual items. So I always make sure now that if I am in a supermarket, there's like a ritual now that I have to make sure that I'm buying other things, but it's none of their business. I was like, I said, look, this is what I'm buying. This is what I'm buying. And they were very patronizing. Now, I should have read the red flags from the start of that day. And so I got to the till and one of the buttons just wasn't working. And it was, and she was shouting at all my businesses. The voices were getting louder and louder and louder. I thought, yeah, just shout all my business across the store. And then the worst bit was, I mean, I laugh about it now, but of course it was, oh, he has to sign. I thought, hello, I'm here. And the woman just sort of ushering me out the store with all these papers, all the transactions that never went through. She said, go home and tell your carer. Oh, fucking hell. Tell your carer. Sorry, I've not been able to swear. I holding my tongue at this point. I do apologise, Jim Hubbard's people, if they've come to this video. But this is, I mean, you should be used to Jim Hubbard's content. You should be used to her when she talks about these experiences. But this actually happened. You've got to understand. And for those people that watch my pretend and play content, this is not imaginary. This really happened. This really happened. So like, and I'd love to name and shame this person, but unfortunately I didn't really get the name. So yeah, and when she was walking me back, because of course I didn't know what I know now of getting out of Morrison's car park. So I was like, can you just take me to, back to where Andy's snack bar is? I was really being, keeping my nerve. And she was going on and on and on. I was like, just woman, shut. I did want to say, can you just shut up, I did sort of say that, but in the nice way possible. I said, look, love, I'll phone up and I'll find. But she was making me nervous actually, but it's like she was trying to, and she was embarrassing me really bad, to the point where I didn't go to Morrison's for a whole 3 or 4 months on my own, or was it a year? It took me a while, I wouldn't go to Morrison's for anything because I didn't want that woman again. I didn't want that same shop assistant. It was the worst assisted shop I'd ever had in my life. And I think the person on the till, that was serving me, I think it was her friend. And, looking back now, I'm thinking it was her and her friend. And it was like that sort of dialogue between them. And then when she took me back, and I actually did get an apology off Morrison's. Everybody did, because it was a broken card machine, and those two women just weren't helping matters. So I got back to the bench. I'll do a full-blown story time because I want to sort of get back to the Q&A, but I will do a story time on it. But anyway, I got to the bench and I phoned my sister and I said, I just had a really bad time in Morrison's. Should I phone the bank? Because the bank was I thought, I'm not going home to tell, my mother, mummy, 4 transactions have gone through and I've had to sign the whole thing. How would that have gone through, because I'm buying a drink. I did actually tell mummy, when my bank statement came through. I think was my, well, you were in Morrison's, what happened? Oh, yeah, I was buying a drink. I said, look, mother, I did phone the bank and let them know. I said, but what, why would I go home, explain everything, just to come back out to town? I thought, no, I'm not doing that. Screw that. I thought, don't you know that the bank is just round the corner? All the banks are around the corner from Morrison's. Not just the bank that I'm in, but all the banks. So I sat on the bench and, I thought this through. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go in the bank and speak to them. So I did. I went in the bank and did the right thing. I went in the bank and spoke to the people in the bank, and the people in the bank were bloody lovely. They knew I went in there to do what I needed to do. And in this day, they went in and they knew, and, and these people were fantastic with another situation that I won't talk about unless it ever comes up. But these people were fantastic. And the both ladies, they knew that I was in a vulnerable situation. I didn't need to explain myself. It was though they could see right through me, and they took the time to explain everything. They took my card and they said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with your card." I was like, "Oh, thank God." They said it's their machines. And so Morrison's, I knew there was a few people. I went to Galloway's a week later and explained oh yeah, I've just had that problem. I said, oh yeah, it's the digit on the card machine. Somebody else had the same problem. I was like, oh, isn't this brilliant? And then I think, was it a month later when I told my story in a group, that same thing that happened to me had happened to somebody else. Why these staff members had been, if I was a boss or a manager, if I'd seen that happen, I'd have been like, excuse me, you shouldn't be questioning what people buy in the shop. They're here to spend money, aren't they? You know, they might not come back in the store, which, you know, I didn't because of that. And, you know, I'm going 10 years ago. You know, I'm going back to 2012. You know, and the people in the bank, they're fantastic with me. They sat me down, and they said, "Look, it's not you, it's them." And when I told them about the stuff, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Stephen," they're like, "That's really bad." I was like, "It was really bad. It was embarrassing. It was shocking." Because what if my confidence was a lot worse than that? You know, and it's lucky that I can actually go and tell people, you know. I mean, I've had situations, you know, I'd just think, you know, it's one of those things, but, you know, but I know a lot of people who watch my channel, and I'm not doing this video for new subscribers, but if you are new here and you found me through Wheels No Heels, they're a fantastic channel and I love what they do. You know, I understand she doesn't have a big team behind her, but her channel's quite big and she goes out and does other things. I'm a small channel. I'm not, my channel's different. It's all for entertainment purposes. But I wondered why, you know, you wonder why someone subscribes to you, and then it's like, oh, there was that one video which got a lot of views, and you know, it was more or less a follow-on of Hannah Witton's video, because if you watch Hannah Witton, she's a bigger YouTuber. I'm just going to go on record here by saying I'm not a huge YouTuber and never want to be. There you go. I'm not going to be starting like getting sponsors and all the rest of it. My channel is what it is, and it's kind of random, but it's more about my pretend companies and pinball, and I've done some music appreciation videos. I've done the Heavy Metal Icebergs series. It's become a series and I need to do a playlist, and I'm hoping that people are enjoying that, because I know people are enjoying that. Actually, I'm not bothered how many views that gets. I'm bothered about the watch time, and I know that people have watched up to on the first video they watched up to tier 2, and what was it, tier 2 to tier 3 and tier 4, and YouTube automatically censored the bit where I was talking about Rick Rubin. I don't know. You know, he's a bigger producer, isn't he? He's a music business, but anyway. Dan Wilson asks, what do you think about the music business? I think it's a business, isn't it? Like anything else. Managers with mounding money yeah. I mean, the music business doesn't really care what those people are and what's behind their music, which is why I don't care for major record labels so much. they damage a lot of music careers. Because they don't, people who work in record companies, they don't listen. They've never heard a tune in their life, and yet they're like, oh, this is good. Yeah, that's great. They've got a great producer. And now they've realised that a lot of artists have realised that if they get a great producer on it, they know that someone will buy their record because someone's decent on it. It's not like the old days where they'd get a guest on there and it'd be like, oh, well, guest producer or a guest guitarist, It's like, like a lot of people are buying Ozzy Osbourne records because it's got Bugsy Malone on. It's like, oh, Bugsy Malone's worked with Ozzy, let's have that record. But anyway, I mean, it's not like the old days where people are gone, oh, I'll buy this record because such and such is on that record. I mean, here's a fact for you. Rick Wakeman plays on the Cat Stevens Morning is Broken. And when I listen to that track, I'm like, oh, that track is so much better knowing that Rick Wakeman's on it. John Paul Jones was on Donovan's records. Sunshine Superman. Robert Plant also sang with Donovan. In fact, if you hear Hurdy Gurdy Man, you can tell Robert Plant's on it. He's on the backing vocal for it. If you listen very, very carefully, you can tell Robert Plant's on there. And Jimmy Page played on... Oh, what was that track Jimmy Page played on? Because they were all session musicians, most of those people. And for all you Mick Jagger fans, for all you Rolling Stones fans, if you don't like soul records, then you won't like Baby Baby Out of Time, Out of Time, which was a Mick Jagger song. It was supposed to be a B-side, but it got put out as an A-side. So all these little things, all these little bits and pieces, like Jeff Lynne was on a Roy Orbison record. It's all these little things, I mean, Dave Grohl played with Tommy and the Heartbreakers. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and I think he learnt from them. I learnt a bit more. You know, it's not like he didn't learn anything. You know, he was in Nirvana, like the biggest freaking rock band of all time. But they would have been bigger, I think, if Kurt stayed with them a bit more. But yeah, things were rocky at the time, even for the band. But that's the thing, you know, the when you buy a record now, you know, it all ended when they got all the best producers on, like, just everybody's records, best singers on, you know, I mentioned Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne's on everything. Marilyn Manson's on everything. Dave Grohl's on everything. You know, Dave Grohl was on a Liam Gallagher record. And these are the things, you know, people don't look at now. It's not like the old days when you go, oh, you know, Dave Grohl's on a record. It's not as exciting as, you know, and it's not as good as it would have been a good few years ago, because record labels are just like, oh yeah, let's get this person on. You know, let's get this person to work with that person. And they make it seem as though the artist is asking for them when they're not. It's the record label. You know, like Madonna's had William Orbit, and that was the best album she did with William Orbit on. And you can tell, like, William Orbit's a freaking trance producer, for goodness sake. But, like, it was like Madonna's stuff on that album is sort of, there's a lot of hyper pop tunes on there, and I don't think Madonna fans would have known what hyper pop is, but that was, you know, hyper pop. Excuse me, has been going a lot longer, since Caroline Polachek and Charlie XCX, and yet they are amazing artists. A lot of people don't really like Charlie XCX and Caroline Polachek, but they are amazing. They do bangers, and I quite like them because they're not very big, and yet they're, you know, there's two artists there. But hyperpop is a real good genre, and it takes everything from pop. You know, it's got high pop. It started out from J-pop and K-pop. A little bit of emo and club and R&B. Excuse me. A little bit of non-commercialism thrown in with a bit of commercialism thrown in there, and that's what I like about hyperpop. It's got all that bubblegum stuff you hear in hyperpop is just the bit that's thrown on top. It's the stuff that's underneath which makes it really, really good, and that's what I like about hyperpop. It's you know, there's not enough of it in the charts, you know, and that's the way it should be. You know, we've had hyperpop in the charts, and now there should be room for something else, I think. John Whisper asks, what's wrong with Bring Me the Horizon? You've just answered your own question. Bring Me the Horizon was a great band in their older times, but now they're just screaming less, using too much auto-tune. trying to sort of bring this whole punk thing in, where they sing about all the problems in the world, but it's, you know, do we really want sort of that sort of coming into metal? It's, that's what's wrong with Bring Me the Horizon. I mean, they've done some good stuff, but where the good is, the bad comes. So that's what's wrong with Bring Me the Horizon. And they were a sellout from the get-go because they, as soon as Sony liked what they heard, Sony just wrote to them and said, you know, come. And this is the problem, you know, there is bigger labels out there for smaller bands. You look at, say, bands like the Arctic Monkeys, for heaven's sake. The Arctic Monkeys were bought out by a big label because they started out on MySpace, but what happened was a lot of big labels, you had a lot of talent scouts trolling things like MySpace, and it still happens. You know, you look at TikTok, for example. Yeah, you look at TikTok. You look at all the biggest names and go, everything on TikTok. Well, actually, how it happened was a lot of people, and this is the thing that people don't look at. They didn't just have 1 million views. There was more than that. You know, they liked what they heard, and because TikTok's short form content, they're only hearing 2 or 3 seconds of it, or 10 minutes of their content before they go, oh yeah, that sounds good. I mean, if and the record labels are going, oh yeah, that's the next hot thing. It might not be the next hot thing, but because these people like it, and because people have already heard it, then that's gonna be the next best thing. But not everything, not unfortunately, a lot of people fall through TikTok. So a lot of the big anthems that get millions and millions and millions of views, they're not going to be heard properly. I mean, there's a lot of garage producers on TikTok. There's a lot of dubstep on TikTok. There's a lot of psychedelic trance, and this is why TikTok should be used. Like, if you're wanting to listen to something new, there is loads of new stuff on TikTok that's never going to be heard because people aren't into that genre, and that's the way it should stay. If you want new genres, TikTok is the place to go, because on TikTok there are a lot of new genres, like the acid techno, hard techno, and there's a lot of these producers that are making great material. It's just that people aren't, and they're already with record labels. They don't want big record labels buying them out. They just want fans to know that it's there. That material's there. They're on TikTok. That material's there on TikTok. You know, why would you want to buy them out? And then yet you get these record labels going, oh, you know, it's the next thing. But then, like, the disgusting side to all that is, well, we can buy you fans because you've got like 4 million views on that. Well, 4 million views is a big number to you, but to me, who's buying your stuff? Who's gonna see? Are you gonna see the cuts of that as an artist? If you wrote that tune, and bearing in mind, where are you going to see all that? It's going to, are they really listening to it? The talent scouts might be listening to it, but is the label listening to it? The labels only knows, oh, well, this person's big, they're blowing up on TikTok. That to a label is like, oh, wow, but how long? And it's who's seeing the cut of it. And this is like, You know, why? And that's why I say to a lot of people, why do you want to be on Britain's Got Talent? You should be glad. I mean, the thing is, when you're on Britain's Got Talent, you can't release anything anymore, because you can't release anything yourself anymore, because as soon as you do that, as soon as you put something on YouTube or Facebook, that's not yours anymore. That becomes, I mean, it's never yours in the first place. But what I'm saying is that content's already sold. You've put it on that online for free, but Sony and Warner and everybody, they've already bought that. So it's not, like back in the day when you could have sold, you could have done something for a friend on Facebook or something for your family. That's not the case anymore, because they own you straight off the bite. You've sold your soul to the record labels. Everybody says Simon Cowell. Well, Simon Cowell, yeah, but it's who he works for, or who they work for. The judges are only there on the panel. But it's the company, the big companies. Do you really want to sell your soul to a company that soon? It's yeah. I mean, I see people on it and I'm thinking, why can't you just create something, put it online, and if millions of people love it, that's it. You don't need to do anything else. Anyway, I'm putting this on YouTube. Goodbye.
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording.